Robbie, look over there.
Not falling for that one again, Alan.
Oh, come on. I removed my Super Soaker water gun from where I was hiding it underwater and pressed the trigger until my brother was completely soaked.
Boys, stop that right now. Come have a snack. You've played in the water enough.
Robbie and I are twins. Extraordinary ones, but we didn't know that yet. We looked a bit different. I had blonde hair while Robbie had black hair, but our faces were the same. It's weird. Our parents had just taken us for a vacation in the forest. We were going to spend the whole summer there. They rented a little cabin, and all we were allowed to do all day was run around in nature, or
enjoy the wilderness,
as my dad liked to put it. No phones, computers, Nintendos, nothing. We weren't upset about it at all, though. In fact, we loved it there. We could run around and behave as ridiculously as we liked. Before I continue, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more awesome videos. Hit that notification bell too, but only if you're amazing. Anyway, after that awesome picnic by the lake, we went back to the cabin and our parents asked us to go for a walk because they wanted some alone time. Why?
Just go enjoy the wilderness, son.
But I want to take a nap.
Just go.
So we decided to go wandering off. Did we know where we were going? No, but that was the fun of being explorers. We walked for a long time, play fighting all the way. We threw rocks and mud at each other and jumped in any little puddle we found. Then we reached a clearing. It was like an area without trees or anything, just a big circle in the middle of the forest.
This is weird.
Yeah.
What should we do?
So we did what any normal 10-year-old boys would do. We went to stand in the middle, of course. Suddenly it started to rain, but there was something different about it. The water was blue, like seriously blue. We paused for a while just to watch the blue droplets dance on our skin. Then we opened our mouths to taste the water. It tasted like ordinary rain. Eventually, there was one big blue puddle, and we just played in it some more until we realized the sky was getting darker. We decided to try to make our way back to the cabin. It took us a while because, like I said, we didn't know where we were going to begin with, and we hadn't thought about using breadcrumbs or anything like that. When we got back, my mom and dad hugged us.
You two were gone for hours.
Yeah, but you told us to go away.
But not for so long. Why are you all blue?
We went inside, showered, and got changed. My mom made us some hot chocolate and told us to sit and behave ourselves. Robbie and I sat at the little table, feeling very satisfied about our little adventure. Robbie picked up his cup first and started drinking, but when I picked up mine, it broke into many pieces. There was hot chocolate all over the floor and my hand was burning too. That's weird, how did that happen?
I'll help you pick it up.
As Robbie bent to pick up the pieces, the cup stuck itself back together like magic. Suddenly, my mom ran in.
What is all of this noise about? Oh my gosh, there's chocolate all over the floor. Go get the mop.
She left the room and Robbie and I went to find the mop, but as soon as I picked it up, it snapped in half. Robbie grabbed the two pieces from me and it came back together.
Something must have happened to us in that rain.
Yeah, it seems that I destroy everything I touch, but you can fix everything.
Let's test this out.
We tried our new strange superpowers on almost everything in the cabin, while our parents weren't looking, of course. I broke everything and Robbie fixed everything. Should we tell Mom and Dad?
No, this is our secret.
We went back home a few days later and I had to be extremely careful. It was kind of frustrating, to be honest. Robbie had to do almost everything for me because I kept breaking things. Then, just like that, summer was over and it was time to start school again. Luckily, we were in the same class. We sat together just to make sure I didn't get myself into too much trouble breaking stuff. We had a nice teacher and I just told her that my hands were always hurting so I couldn't write anything. Robbie had double the work and it was fine for a while, but I could tell he was becoming frustrated. But school was also a place for us to become superheroes without anyone noticing. Our targets? School bullies and awful teachers. If we noticed anyone being unnecessarily mean, I just touched their stuff during recess and they'd come back and have no idea what happened. The person I enjoyed doing this to the most was Noah. He was the tallest, biggest, fattest boy in our class, and it seemed like he only came to school to push us around. We boys didn't care much because we could stand up for ourselves. But one day, he picked on the shyest girl in our class, Isabella. She was as quiet as a mouse and really nice to everyone. She always stayed in class during recess because she was too shy to go out to play. One day, Noah pushed all her books off her desk and told her to go outside and behave like a normal person. She instantly started crying and the teacher wasn't around to help. He went outside and Robbie and I stayed inside to comfort her. Robbie took her to the cafeteria and bought her some ice cream. I was alone in the classroom. I went straight to Noah's desk to see what I could break. Yes, I thought as I saw his brand new Nintendo Switch on his desk. He was such a show-off, he couldn't leave it at home even though we weren't allowed to bring those things to school. I touched it and it broke in half. After that, I ran outside to join Robbie and Isabella for ice cream. Noah was so angry, we thought he was going to pop. Our teacher looked confused as he held both pieces of his Switch in both hands.
But who would even have the strength to do something like that?
You've got to punish them. Punish the whole class if no one will own up.
You're not even supposed to bring these to school. Let this be a lesson.
I hate you. You're the worst teacher in the world. I'm sure you did it.
He stormed out of the class, and for that little act, he was suspended for 2 weeks. So time flew by, and Robbie and I started high school. By that time, I had started trying to control my strange powers. I found that if I concentrated really hard, things wouldn't break if I touched them for only a while. I practiced on little things around the house until I got the hang of it. This was a big help because I couldn't expect Robbie to babysit me my whole life. We had different interests and we didn't want to be in all the same classes. He loved science, but I loved the humanities. My favorite subject ever was history, and I wanted to become an archaeologist. And guess what? We both had girlfriends now. Lily was perfect, and we'd been going out for 2 years. We were best friends, but I'd managed to keep my secret from her for a long time. I just couldn't risk anyone finding out the truth about me. One day, she nearly found out though. I was at her house looking through her jewelry box to get an idea of what kind of stuff she liked. Her birthday was coming soon, and I wanted to get her the perfect gift. I pulled out a beautiful pearl necklace, and I was so caught up with how beautiful it was that I ended up holding it for too long. Then, snap, it broke into 3 pieces. She walked in as I was holding the pieces in my hands.
What did you do?
I can explain. I'm so sorry.
This belonged to my great-grandmother. It's the only thing we have left of her. I can't believe this.
She started crying and didn't want to speak to me for the rest of the afternoon. Listen, Lily, I'm really sorry, but I can fix this. I'll take it with me, and tomorrow it will be as good as new. She nodded and I left. Robbie, please, just fix it. It was a mistake.
You see, this is what happens when guys try to be too romantic. I just pick Nicole old flowers I find in the park, and she's happy with that.
Yes, and I'm sure your relationship is going to last for a very long time. Robbie could be so annoying sometimes, but he fixed the necklace and I gave it back to Lily the next day. I thought about telling her why it happened, but I decided it would be a bad idea. What if we broke up? Anyway, she was happy and I was relieved. So, yay, I had my girlfriend back. Things were looking up. The biggest museum in my city was looking for an intern, and my awesome history teacher suggested me to them. So I started working there on afternoons and weekends. It gave me less time to spend with Lily or to do the other fun things that I loved, but I was more than excited. In no time, I learned the history of every single piece in the museum. I think I even knew more than some of the curators who'd been employed there for years. I could guide a group of people around there with my eyes closed. Sometimes I'd stay in the museum after my shift was over, just gazing at everything. There were thousands of artifacts, and I was fascinated by every single one. The other people who worked there thought I was a bit crazy for that, and eventually they felt safe going home and leaving me there alone. Apart from me, there was just one guy in the security booth up front. Most of the items on display were behind glass cases, and we weren't supposed to remove or even touch them. But there was one I couldn't resist, and I was waiting for the night I'd be all alone with it. It was a beautiful vase from China, which was worth at least $16 million. It was covered in intricate patterns, and I wanted to touch and observe them all. I picked it up and stared at it for a long time. I was so engrossed in the thing that I completely forgot that I couldn't hold anything for too long. Suddenly, it shattered in my hands, and I felt my heart drop to the floor. I didn't know what to do, so I ran to security and told them that someone had tried to break in. They called the police immediately, and in no time it was all over the news. I ran home to talk to Robbie.
Bro, they're going to check the camera footage and they'll see that it was you.
Oh gosh, I forgot about that.
You've got to get away, or you're going to jail. They're gonna think it was deliberate. We don't have all that money. How would we even repay them?
I don't know where to go.
Don't worry, we'll figure it out together. I'm coming with you.
We packed our bags and ran through the back door just as we heard the sirens approaching our house. We walked for a while and then took a bus and stopped 5 hours away. After that, we walked some more and stopped at a little motel. It was really awful there, but we were very tired. We got some rest and began moving again the day after. But before that, I cut my hair and tried to make myself look like someone else. I assumed that by this time, my face was all over the news, and that if anyone caught me, I'd go straight to jail. We had about 20 missed calls from our parents, so we decided to call them to explain what happened. We finally told them the truth about everything, and instead of being angry, they were supportive. They offered to send us some money once we chose a final destination. Years have passed since then, and I'm so grateful that I have a supportive brother. We started a business repairing stuff. Cars, appliances, everything. Well, Robbie does most of the work. We've been back to the forest several times looking for the spot to see if it would rain again and my powers could be taken away, but we've had no luck. Our goal is to make loads of money and then move to another country and live luxurious lives. We're still working on that for now, but I hope that everything will work out someday.
Mom, come and see this! Mom came bustling from inside the house to the backyard. Aren't they pretty? Look, they're eating from the birdhouse that I made. My eyes sparkled.
You're such a thoughtful girl, honey. Those birds are so lucky.
I beamed at Mom, who smiled at me before heading back inside. I inched my way towards one of the birds and held it. I went to one of the bushes in the backyard and removed a cage, which I secured the bird in. You'll get me a pretty penny at the pet store. Hi, my name is Sophia. Give this video a thumbs up and smash that notification bell so you will know when more of our amazing stories are uploaded. I love my mother with all of my heart. She would always boast to other parents and teachers about how well behaved I was. How I was always obedient in class and always brought home excellent grades. My sister was an only child for a while and was adopted because my parents thought they couldn't have children. When she was about 6, Mom got pregnant and in 9 months, birthed a gorgeous baby girl, me. Dad, however, passed away when I was 10 years old, and even though Mom tried her best to keep us happy, I still felt a void in my spirit. In middle school, I began to pull pranks on other children and sometimes even teachers, and then blame it on the kids who always got in trouble. It was remarkably easy since I was the quiet child in the class and got straight A's. One time I told my mom that I had to get to school early to complete a group project, and I covered the entire classroom in foil. Another time, I attached a rubber snake to the teacher's cupboard, so when she opened it, the snake jumped out. The teacher was out for 2 weeks with a sprained ankle. Nobody suspected it was me. Well, no one besides my older sister, Paula.
Sophia, did you have anything to do with that foil prank?
The what? I looked up from my books and stared at her blankly.
You know, the person who covered the entire classroom in foil?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about. I focused on the homework in front of me.
So why did you have Mom buy all of those rolls of foil? And why did you have to go to school so early this morning?
Well, I had to get there early for a group project. We are making solar panels in science class.
You may have everyone else fooled, but I know it was you.
Innocent until proven guilty. For someone who wants to be a lawyer, you should know that, I smirked. My sister shook her head and walked away. You see, Paula was in high school and I in middle school, but we were on the same campground. The pranks spread like wildfire, and the more they spread, the more pranks I did. When my sister was in high school, there was one prestigious college that she and her friends wanted to get into. When the time came, they all applied and waited anxiously for their acceptance letters. About 6 weeks later, Paula's friends began receiving their letters. Finally, hers arrived. She was ecstatic, and Mom and I were proud. However, her journey turned into sadness a few weeks later. She once tried again to tell Mom that I was responsible for a prank that was pulled at school, but Mom didn't believe her. Furious, I decided to teach my snitching sister a lesson. I downloaded a voice changer app on my phone, and when only my sister and I were at home, I put my plan into action. I called the house landline and waited.
Good afternoon. May I speak with Paula Archer, please?
I had to clear my throat to stop myself from laughing.
Hello, good afternoon, this is she. Who may I ask is calling?
Hi, Miss Archer. I am an administrator at Yale University, and we are sorry to inform you that we made an error on your admittance form. The person to be admitted was Paula Archibald, not Paula Archer. We are sincerely sorry about the mix-up. We do hope that you can still get into a fine college, or you can reapply next year. Have a good afternoon, Miss Archer. Goodbye.
I hung up the phone and stayed in my room for at least an hour before going outside to meet my sister, who was curled up in a ball on the sofa, aimlessly flipping through channels. Hey sis, I'm going to order a pizza. What do you want on yours? Paula didn't answer, so I went up to her and poked her on the head as I repeated the question. She threw off my hand, shot into a sitting position, and yelled,
I don't want any pizza. Leave me alone.
Hearing the door unlock, knowing that Mom was home, I began to cry. I only asked you a simple question. There's no need to be mean about it. When Mom opened the door and saw Paula's angry face and my crying one, she asked what was going on. I told her that I only asked Paula what she wanted on her pizza, and she snapped at me. Mom scolded Paula and asked her why she did that.
You always take Sophia's side. I wish Dad was here. He was the only one who understood me.
Paula stormed off and left Mom and I in the living room. Later that night, Paula told Mom about the phone call, and Mom told Paula that she had other colleges that she got accepted into. And maybe that was God's way of telling her that Yale wasn't what's best for her. It took Paula a few days to tell her friends about the phone call. By that time, the deadline to submit your acceptance and pay part of the tuition had already passed. Mom even allowed her to have a sleepover, which I hated because her friends were so bossy. When I was watching a movie, Paula demanded that I hand them the remote and go to my room, which I obviously objected to. Paula and I began to fight over the remote, and I blurted out, "That's why I made that prank call, and you aren't going to Yale." Paula stopped and looked at me.
What did you say?
One of her friends replied,
I think she just said that the Yale call was a prank. You didn't.
"I did." Paula screamed and tried to grab me, but I quickly moved myself out of the way. Mom rushed out of her bedroom.
What is all of this commotion about? Do you know what your daughter did?
Mom looked at me and Paula continued.
She was the one that called and pretended to be someone from Yale. She made me lose my spot. Paula, you are 17. You could have made the call to Yale to find out why. You lost your own spot because you didn't follow up. Don't blame Sophia.
I stuck my tongue out at Paula when Mom wasn't looking. "Mom, can I watch TV in your room? Paula is being mean to me."
Sure, baby.
I smiled and skipped to Mom's room, jumped onto her bed, and flipped on the TV while Mom grilled Paula. Eventually, Paula got into a community college. I don't think she'll ever forgive me, though. Once I got into high school, I decided to up my pranks just a notch. As in, middle school teachers were none the wiser, but the students weren't as naive. In the cafeteria, while passing behind one of the girls named Becky, I threw some mashed potatoes at another student, Ryan. Ryan thought it was Becky, and even though she denied it, Ryan poured his juice over Becky's head, which started a food fight in the cafeteria. One of Becky's friends told the principal that I was the one who threw the food at Ryan. Becky then told her parents, and her parents wanted to meet with my mom the next day in the principal's office. Once I was seated in the principal's office, I cried to Mom and the principal and told them that Becky had been bullying me since the beginning of the year. I told them that Becky videotaped me while I was in the shower after gym, and she said that if I didn't do as she said, that she would post the video online. That day, I deserved an Oscar award. By the time I left the principal's office, Becky was grounded for a month and had to help clean the cafeteria for 2 weeks at school. I, on the other hand, went to the mall with Mom that day and got a cute new outfit. She was so sorry that I had to go through that ordeal with Becky. At high school, I strived to receive A's, as I loved the compliments that my teachers gave me, and it also kept me on their good side as the perfect student. After receiving the results of a test one afternoon in English class, my eyes widened when I realized I got a B. After class, I approached Mrs. Sharp. "Mrs. Sharp, is it possible to redo the test so I can get an A?"
I'm sorry, Sophia, but my mark is final. My workload is too much, and if I give you a chance to redo it, many other students will want the same chance. I'm sorry. Just do better next time.
I watched her angrily as she picked up her belongings and walked out of the classroom. I was furious. How dare she refuse my right to receive an A? I got my chance for the best prank ever. It was at our annual Halloween show where Mrs. Sharp was the host. The afternoon before the show, I collected small lizards and placed them in a jar with holes. I got to the set early and climbed the ladder so I could be above the stage. I didn't even wait until 15 minutes in when I dropped a lizard on Mrs. Sharp's head. Then another and another. It wasn't until the 5th lizard was dropped and crawled into her bosom that she began to dance and scream, trying to get the scaly creature out. Most of the kids started to laugh, and the music teacher, Mr. James, tried to help her out, but her leg got stuck around the lights on the stage and she toppled over. I crept from the top of the stage and into the crowd. The next few minutes were chaotic, as an ambulance had to be called for Mrs. Sharp since her leg was twisted in an awkward position. Another teacher had to be prepared to take her place. Once everything had died down, the principal addressed the audience.
Good evening, parents, teachers, and students. What happened tonight is very unfortunate, and I believe it was a prank gone too far. This will be fully investigated, as our auditorium was recently equipped with security cameras.
What? I thought to myself as I looked up and noticed the cameras staring at me.
Our teachers and students have worked hard on this talent show, so let us enjoy the rest of the night. If anyone needs me, I'll be in my office checking the security camera.
I need to get to the office before the principal does. I darted across the picnic area of the school and to the administration building. The building was in darkness, and I pushed the door, delighted that it was open. I figured that since admin was on the compound, but that wasn't it. I was able to make my way to the principal's office and sit in his chair when the lights came on and the vice principal opened the door and looked at me. She was on the phone. Sir, your plan worked, and you wouldn't believe who was behind it. The vice principal ordered me to sit in the chair outside the principal's office. A few minutes later, the principal arrived with a bottle of lizards in his hand and ushered me into his office.
Miss Archer, I'm surprised that you were the culprit behind this.
I opened my mouth to respond, but he put his hand up to stop me.
If we test this jar for fingerprints, will your prints be on it? And before you answer, know that your response will have consequences.
The principal rested the jar on his desk. I sighed heavily. Yes, sir, my prints will be on the jar. The principal looked at the door.
Ah, Mrs. Archer, thank you for joining us.
I looked towards the door, and there stood my mother. She looked heartbroken.
Have a seat, Mrs. Archer.
Mom silently sat in the seat next to mine. I couldn't bring myself to look in her direction. The principal then turned to me.
You see, Miss Archer, even though the cameras are up, they're not yet up and running. I told Mrs. Wilson what happened, and I told her that if my suspicions are correct, the person who pulled the prank would try to get to the tape before I did. What I didn't expect is for our top student to be the mastermind of such a horrendous prank.
I was caught red-handed, and there was nothing I could do about it. I couldn't deny what I did. I listened to the principal and Mom talk about the possibility of Mrs. Sharp pressing charges and me heading to a juvenile detention facility. After their discussion, Mom turned to me.
I can't believe Paula was right about you this whole time. I allowed my love for you to blind me, but that will no longer be the case here. I will call Paula tomorrow and apologize to her, and so will you. Whatever the principal and Mrs. Sharp think is the proper punishment, I will support them.
I was not only expelled from my school, but Mrs. Sharp's husband made sure that she pressed charges, and I was sentenced to 2 years in juvie on assault charges. I'm not upset by what was done. If anything, I will never pull another prank in my life again. Paula came to visit me every weekend, and our relationship grew significantly. My relationship with Mom was never the same. Mrs. Sharp even checked on me a few times to make sure I was okay. She said she had forgiven me and that I hoped I learned my lesson. After I was released from juvie, I found every person I ever pranked and apologized. Some people forgave me, some people didn't, and I was okay with that. I've decided to study psychology as a degree because I want to learn about myself and hopefully help other boys and girls who may have been messed up a little bit as I was. Pranks should be funny for everyone. If you are the only one laughing, then you're doing it wrong. I reached over and switched off my alarm. I couldn't believe it was morning already. It felt like I'd only been asleep for about an hour. All I wanted to do was curl up and go back to sleep. But it was a school day, so there was no chance of me having a lie-in. I pushed the bed covers off me and got out of bed. It was my own fault I was feeling so tired. I had stayed up late playing computer games with my friends. I had a quick wash and went downstairs to the kitchen where my mom and dad were eating breakfast. Bye, Mom. I'm off to school.
What about your breakfast, Tess?
I haven't got time. I'll just grab something on the way. I picked up my school bag and had almost got to the front door when I heard my mom's voice.
Don't forget to put your mask on.
I sighed and rolled my eyes. Okay, Mom. I picked up my fake face mask and put it on. Hey, but before I continue, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell too so you won't miss out on any more crazy stories like mine. You're probably wondering why I wear a fake face mask, aren't you? You probably even think it's a bit weird, right? But for me, it's normal. I've worn a fake face mask for as long as I can remember. When I was very little, my parents explained it all to me. You see, I have this rare skin condition. It affects my face, making me super sensitive to sunlight. If the sunlight sets onto my face, then I could be scarred for life. I don't know anyone else that has my condition. I guess it's really rare. Anyway, I'm fine with wearing a mask most of the time. It's just something I have to accept. When I arrived at school, I went to find my friends, and they were all hanging out in the schoolyard.
Hey, Tess, over here.
I ran over to join them.
Why are you so late?
Oh, I stayed up late gaming and couldn't get out of bed this morning.
Haha, what did your mom say?
I didn't tell her. And don't you say anything either, okay?
Of course not.
The bell went then, and we all went off to class. Eventually, the last bell of the day rang. I grabbed my jacket and walked out of the school gates and set off for home. I hadn't gone very far when a girl suddenly appeared in front of me. She was also wearing a mask. Not a fake face one, like me though. It was one of those surgical ones, like what doctors wear. Suddenly, she pointed at my arm.
What's that mark on your arm?
I thought that it was a bit of a weird question to ask a stranger. I mean, it's not really the kind of thing you do, is it? I decided to just ignore her, and she was making me feel really uncomfortable. I hurried off down the road, leaving the girl standing there. When I got home, I went up to my room and sat down on my bed. I glanced down at the star-shaped birthmark on my arm. Who was that strange girl, and why was she interested in my lucky star? That's what my parents called my birthmark. They told me when I was younger that I had a lucky star watching over me. The next day, I had completely forgotten about the strange girl. So you can imagine how surprised I was when I was walking home from school and the same girl appeared in front of me. She stood there staring intensely at my face. Suddenly, without any warning, she leapt towards me and pulled off my face mask. Ah! I screamed out loudly, but the girl just gasped. No! What have you done? I tried to shield my face from the sunlight, but it was too late. For the first time in my life, I felt the warmth of the sun on my face. I waited for the inevitable pain, but there was nothing. That's weird. I thought I would feel some burning sensation or something. I took my mirror out of my school bag and looked at my face. There was nothing. No reaction, no scarring, nothing. But my parents told me that I would get terrible scars. Surely they wouldn't have lied, would they? Before I had time to process what was going on my head, something even stranger happened. The girl stepped forward and started hugging me. I pushed her away from me forcefully. Get off me! What are you doing? Are you crazy? But instead of answering me, the girl just took off her surgical mask. You will not believe what she looked like behind the mask. Me! Yep, that's right. She looked exactly the same as me. I was absolutely speechless. I just stood there staring at her, not saying a word. The girl opened her mouth and was about to say something when I suddenly heard the screech of tires and a car pulled up beside the two of us. Someone opened the car door, grabbed hold of the girl, and pulled her inside. Before I knew it, the car had driven off and I was left standing there all alone. That's when I really started to panic. I'm not sure if it was the shock of seeing the girl's face or the fact that I had just witnessed a kidnapping, but the adrenaline surged through my body and I ran home as fast as I could. As I burst through the front door, panting and gasping for breath, I tried to explain everything to my parents. Someone kidnapped a girl in front of me.
Wait a minute. Slow down. You're not making any sense. Now, take a deep breath and start at the beginning.
I calmed myself down and told my parents the whole story. Well, actually, not the whole story. I didn't tell them that the girl had looked just like me. And I also didn't tell them that she had taken my face mask off. I guess it was some kind of instinct that told me not to mention it.
Well, that certainly does sound very serious. We should call the police and tell them.
My dad went through to the lounge and made the call. I could hear him telling the police everything that I had told him.
Yes, of course, officer. If she remembers any more details, I'll be sure to let you know.
My dad came back through to me and my mom.
They haven't had any reports of a missing person, but they're going to look into it.
I really hope they find her.
I'm sure they will. Don't you give it another thought.
Okay, Dad. But I couldn't do what my dad had said. All I could think about was the girl's face. I felt so guilty knowing that someone who looked just like me had been kidnapped. I mean, if she hadn't seen me, maybe she wouldn't have been kidnapped. I decided that I was going to do some investigating on my own. That night, I wrote down every single detail of what had happened, and the following day, I spent every spare minute reading through my notes. Surely there must be some clue here. There must be something to help me find the girl. My eyes hovered over where I had written the make and model of the car. It's weird, but there's something about that car that seemed familiar. I'm sure I've seen it somewhere before, but I couldn't for the life of me remember where I knew the car from. It was only when I was walking home from school and I turned the corner into our street that I remembered. Of course! How could I not have remembered before? The car looks identical to our neighbor's car. When I got home, I called the police immediately. I think I know who kidnapped the girl.
Who?
Our next door neighbor.
What makes you say that?
It's the car. Their car is the one that the kidnappers were driving.
Thank you. We will send someone around to speak with them.
The police did send a couple of officers to speak to our neighbors, but unfortunately, they had a tight-knit alibi. They had been at their cousin's birthday party at the time of the kidnapping. They had more than 20 witnesses that could testify for them. There was no way that it could have been them that had committed the kidnapping. Before the officers left, they asked to take a look inside the car. As soon as they opened the back door, my heart skipped a beat and my blood ran cold. There, on the back seat, was my mother's earring. I would recognize it anywhere. I quickly grabbed it and shoved it into my pocket before the officers had a chance to see it.
Well, there doesn't seem to be anything inside the car that would help us. I think we have to accept that your neighbors are innocent.
Yes, it does seem that way. Sorry if I wasted your time.
Don't worry about it. If you think of anything else, let us know.
Yes, definitely. The officers drove off and I went back inside our house. I went through to the kitchen where my parents were sitting at the table and took my mom's earring out of my pocket. What's this?
It's my earring. Where did you find it?
On the back seat of our neighbor's car.
Oh, yes. I must have left it there the day I went.
Don't even bother trying to deny it. I can see the guilt all over your faces.
What are you talking about, Tess?
Don't treat me like a child. I know you had something to do with the kidnapping. I demand to know the truth.
Okay. You're right. It was us.
Even though I had felt pretty certain my parents had been involved, actually hearing them say it out loud came as a bit of a shock.
We kidnapped the girl and we used the neighbor's car to throw off the police.
But why? Why would you do something like that? My mom looked at my dad as if to get his approval. He nodded at her.
Tess, the girl that we kidnapped is your clone.
My what?
Your clone.
How could that even happen?
Look, Tess, you know that we work at Area 51. When you were a little baby, some of your DNA, probably from a strand of hair or something being left on my body, ended up getting inside a cloning machine during an experiment. It resulted in a clone of you being made.
I put my hands on each side of my head and started shaking it from left to right. How could you let that happen?
It was an accident, and the scientists assured us that the clone would never get out of Area 51.
But she did get out, didn't she?
Not long after you were cloned, Area 51 was broken into. Whoever broke in took the clone.
My dad stood up and put his arms around me.
That's why we make you wear the mask. We wanted to protect you from the clone and anyone else. We knew that by wearing the mask, no one would know your real identity.
It was all fine for years. In fact, we had almost completely forgotten about the clone. That was until one day your dad and I were driving home and we saw the girl. We decided to go out the following day and look for her, using the neighbor's car. When we saw her, we just bundled her into the car. To be honest, we didn't even know it was you talking to her until you came home and told us.
So where is she now?
We are keeping her at a safe house. It's about an hour from here.
I want to go and see her. I want to know that she is safe.
Okay, we will take you there.
We pulled up outside what seemed like an ordinary house. No one would ever suspect someone had been kidnapped and was being held there. My dad unlocked the door and the three of us went inside. As soon as the girl saw me, her face lit up. She almost looked relieved. Are you okay?
Yes, I'm fine.
Can you tell me what happened at Area 51?
Do you mean with the break-in?
Yes, why did they take you?
The break-in was actually staged. They wanted to make it look like some kind of robbery. Some of the staff working at Area 51 felt sorry for me. They knew what horrors the people working there would subject me to. Continuous experiments, torture, all of that horrid stuff. They rescued me and raised me as their own child.
So why did you come looking for me?
Because I had always known that there was someone out in the world that looked exactly like me. Curiosity got the better of me, and I decided I would go out and explore the area, try to see if I could find you.
Well, you found me.
That was just lucky. I would never have recognized you if it wasn't for your birthmark. As soon as I saw it on your arm, I felt sure it was you, but your face confused me. You didn't look anything like me.
So that's why you pulled off my mask.
Yes, as soon as I saw your real face, I knew that I had found you.
So now what do you want?
Well, it would be nice if we could get to know each other a little bit. Maybe one day we could even be friends.
I smiled at her. I guess I could do that. She gave me a huge beaming smile.
I was hoping you might say that.
Just when I thought that everything was going to turn out fine, my dad suddenly looked as white as a sheet. What's the matter, Dad?
They're here.
Who's here?
It's all the scientists from Area 51. Somehow they must have found out that the clone is here and they're coming to take her back.
No, there's no way I'm going back there. They can't make me.
I'm afraid they can.
Is there a back way out of here, Dad?
Yes, but you'll have to be quick.
I handed my mask to the girl. Here, put this on. They won't know who you are if they see you. She took the mask from my hand and put it over her face. We went to the back door and I gave her a hug. Go on now, run for your life. Get as far away from here as possible. We will stall them as best as we can. I watched as the girl ran off down the street. I have no idea if I will ever see her again, but I really do hope that one day we will meet again. We'll meet again. We'll meet again. We'll meet again. We'll meet again.